Hi everybody, welcome to the first video tutorial on learning a program with Roblox and Lua. I'm Aaron, I'm the developer from Funtime Games Group on Roblox. And recently I've been getting a lot of questions on where do I go to start programming, where do I go to learn about programming for beginners. And since I've been getting a lot of that, I figured instead of just saying randomly the internet as a response, maybe I could offer some of my experience and impart some of my knowledge to everyone learning. And that's what this video series is. The fundamentals of programming. So not that you would just know how to program in Roblox, but take that to any language, and basically as long as you learn the technicalities and what they call syntax of any language, you'd be able to write in that language. So I guess first off is, what is programming? Programming is just feeding instructions to the computer to get it to do what you want it to do, the operations you want it to do. And there's a few structures to it that we'll be going over, I think probably one by one in part in the series. And to get started, we'll probably looking at the print function, the very first function. And it's pretty powerful in a way as a debugger, as an early learning tool. So we'll be starting with that. And what you're looking at right now is actually the Roblox Studio. I'll be able to leave a link in the descriptions where you can go to download this. And once you get it set up, we're going to start by getting one thing changed here, and that's I don't have the output bar here. So I'm going to go to top bar here. We have home, model, test, and view. And I'm going to click on view, and then you'll see the bar below that change, and you'll see output. I'll click on that, and then you'll see I'll have my output bar here. And I can move it around and get it where I want it and size it up. And basically what this does is this location will add, or it'll show anything I print out in my script will show up down here. So, and that's the first thing we'll be doing now, is printing stuff out to that output. So to get started, we'll need to create a script. So we'll go over to the right, and you can see the server script service. And when you hover over it with your mouse, you'll see the plus sign. If you click on that, you'll see a drop down that says module and script, and just hover over script and click on it, and you'll get the first script. And if your screen's a little different, if it shows up white, it's just the settings. You can change it to the dark theme. I find it's easier on the eyes if you're working a lot on the computer. But getting back to the print, this function is actually going to print out what it says here, hello world, in the brackets. And when when the program is executed, you'll see down here it'll say hello world. So actually you can go ahead and do that right now. If we hit play, it'll execute the script, and you'll see hello world. And a nice part about the Roblox Studio is if you hover over it, you'll see its actual link, the output. If you click on it, it'll take you back to the script that executed that code. So we're back to where we started. So now it's like, well, why is that so powerful, so neat? And it's not that the function print just prints out words, but print also evaluates expressions. Now, I'll show you what that means here. Is that, say if we have 5 plus 4 within the parentheses of the function print, what's going to happen is it's going to evaluate, right? Evaluate 5 plus 4 and return the result. So what that means is, before print even gets to show you 5 plus 4, it's going to take it, evaluate it, which means do the math for it. So 5 plus 4 is going to be 9. So 9 is going to go back in, and then print's going to go out here, and below hello world you'll see 9. So that's one way to print can evaluate expressions. And say, but I just wanted to print out the 5 plus 4. How do I do that? Well, you can go print, and instead of just the 5 plus 4, say you wrap it in double quotes, like we see up here with the hello world. And when you do that, it's known as a literal, which means that, you know, if you take something literally, it means that's the text, that's what it's going to grab. So there's nothing really to evaluate here. So it's immediately just going to pass it to be printed out as 5 plus 4. And if we hit play again, you can see down here, you have your 9, your evaluated 5 plus 4, and the result is 9. And below it, it's the literal version, 5 plus 4 in quotes. So that's one way it can evaluate things. The other way is if we feed it a variable. And in programming, a variable is it's kind of like I'd say a memory location, or you could think of it as, say, an empty container of Tupperware. And we're going to go ahead and create our first variable right now. And if you just type X, and just type X, and basically there's your first variable. And the variable can be named anything you want to name it. And the rules on that is any name except keywords. So, and keyword means anything reserved by the system that's in use, right? So one we know of right off the bat is print. So we can't name a variable print. There'll be other ones on the line, down the line, like for, while, do, if, else, end. You can't name variables words that are reserved by the system, and that's the only rule on variables, really. It's pretty common down any language you learn. So right now we said we created this value X, and it's an empty container. There's nothing. It's just there. The computer knows X is there if you refer to it. So what we want to do is we want to put something in a container. Well, what can we put in a container? The container will take numbers, which refer to as integers, literals, which we saw here is just something in between quotes, literal text. It could be numbers or alphanumerics or alphabetical things between the quotes, or Boolean variables, Boolean values. I'm sorry, which would be true or false, or even larger data sets, which we'll probably be using on next few videos, or next few videos to come. But so for now, what we'll do is we'll assign it a value. So we'll put something in its container. So we'll say X, and we'll hit the equals button, and then say we'll give it the value 5. So what we've done now is we've put the number 5 into that empty container. So now it's not an empty container anymore. The container holds the value 5. And how you would read this as a developer or programmer is that the variable X receives the value 5. So now what happens is the print function will also can evaluate variables for their value. So if I put print X, it's not going to print the literal X anymore. It's going to print, it knows, hey, there's a value named X, there's a variable named X. What's the value of it? So it's going to print that. So if we do that, stop again and play. So it should print out 5. Once it goes, there it is. So there's your 5. And again, if you wanted to not do a number, but you wanted to say add a sentence. So this is a sentence, or sentence. Basically a string of characters. It's a literal again, but it's more of like a few words. So now what we've done, we've assigned X again. So what just happened? We just said X was 5. Now X is this sentence. How does that work? Is it X equals 5 and the sentence? And the answer is no. What happens is that container that contained 5 the 5 gets thrown away. It's deleted, gone from memory, and the words "this is a sentence" go into the container. And so now X contains the words "this is a sentence." So now what we see is if we again run it again, or execute the code again, we'll see that instead of 5 we get "this is a sentence," the new value of the variable. So you can also change it to, like I mentioned before, Boolean variables, which is either true or X can be assigned false. So now what you have to do is you have to take it by sequence. So X was 5, that got thrown out. It was the sentence, that got thrown out of the container. X was true, true got thrown out of the container, and now X is false. So if we were to run it again, we'd see it be the printout would be false. So this is kind of important to note as well, that you want to always make sure that you're aware of the value that is in the variable, because if the computer will remember. If you don't, your program is not going to be what you're expecting. So that's why the print function is very valuable, to ensure that you and the computer are on the same page as what the value is in the variable that you're using. So we've seen that it can evaluate, the print function can evaluate math. It could do math. It could evaluate the value of a function. It could add this. It could add a literal. We could just print X just by wrapping it in quotes here. It would just print the value X, not what's in the variable value of X. And one thing to note too is that we could also evaluate from the variable. It's as this does math, right? The 5 plus 4. We could do the same thing to the variable. So if we say X receives 5 plus 4, what do you think is going to happen when I hit the print the value of X now? Is it going to say 5 plus 4? Is it going to say just 5? Is it going to say just 4? Or is it going to say, could it say 9? Let's see. It's going to say 9. And that's because what happens is anything to the right of an expression is evaluated first. So when we see here 5 plus 4, what occurs here, just like within the parentheses, is that the 5 plus the 4 are evaluated, or the math is done, and we get 9. And at that 9 is what the value of 9 is what X receives. So in essence, here X receives 9 because we evaluate the expression in here first, to the right first. And this is important because in further things, you're going to have loops which require counters sometimes, and a counter uses this a lot. And this is a tricky one when you're starting. So if I did this, if I said X receives X plus 3, what would occur here? Well, how do you assign X to itself plus an, so what occurs really is that it's not that we're assigning X equal to itself. Well, we are in a way. What we're doing is we're evaluating this expression first, right? So, and the last value of X we know up here was 9. So the value of X currently is 9. So we know that. So this is like saying 9 plus 3. So we know here that X is 5 plus 4, and that evaluates to 9. And so X receives the value of 9. So here we see that X is 9 plus 3. So X receives the resulted expression of 9 plus 3, which is 12. So I'm going to wager that X is going to be equal to 12 when we print out at the final line here. So we're going to stop again and play, and we have our 12. And all that was just showing that um, uh, the everything to the right is evaluated first and then assigned to the value of the variable. So what even if we did x, it'd be the same thing. So I didn't do that right. So just to show you that you still get your 12. So that's also a thing to remember, is that you evaluate stuff to the right and then assign it. So that'll be my first. That'll probably do for the first lesson.